All right, Shalom. Giving all praises, glory, and honors unto Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua by Hashem Dash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the 144,000. The rest of the hopeful elect. This is your brother Tazai from GMS Atlanta. Back with another edifying video. And I want to go over another video on the moon, the new moon, and to prove to you Israelites out there that teach this, such as the IUIC, that the new moon is not a bright full moon, but it is indeed a dark moon. The new moon is not a bright full moon. It is a dark moon, okay? That is letting you know that there is going to be a new monthly cycle when the moon is dark and it increases to light. So, let me get this in the KJV first. So this is the book of Sirach, known as Ben Sirach or Ecclesiasticus chapter 43. I'm going to get straight to the point. Verse 6, it says, "He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world." So the moon was created for a particular reason, to let you know what seasons we're in and certain times. It says, "From the moon is the sign of feasts." So the moon is a signal light. For example, when Gotham City wants to call on Batman, they shine the Batman symbol, which is a light in the sky, and he shows up. And he recognizes that as a signal for him to help out in the city. You know, it serves its purpose. That signal, that bat signal serves its purpose. Well, so does the moon. The moon is an example of one of the great lights, which one great light is the sun. We can clearly see that shines in the day. And then you have the moon, which shines at night. Except the sun does not change. The sun is always going to be a bright, hot light in the sky. The moon is a little different. The moon sometimes is full, sometimes it's dark, sometimes you get a quarter moon, sometimes you get crescent moons, all right? So the moon changes. That's the beauty and the glory of the moon. The glory of the sun is one glory, the glory of the moon is another, but there are still two great lights. So it says, "From the moon is the sign of feast, a light that decreaseth in her perfection." Verse 8, "The month is called after her name." So you get the word month from the word moon. "Increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above." The armies above are the angels, shining in the firmament of heaven. So these verses here, Ecclesiasticus 43, 7 and 8, give you an understanding that the moon goes from a dark moon, new moon, to a full moon, and decreases again to a dark moon to complete the perfection of its cycle. Okay? So now, let's deal with this. So it says, "From the moon is the sign of feast, a light that decreases in her perfection." One of the signs of a new moon is a feast. So let's go here. Let's go to the book of Psalms. And the 81st chapter. This is in the Good News translation. So let's get to the point. Psalms 81, start at the first verse. It says, "Shout for joy to our power, our defender. Sing praise to the power of Jacob. Start the music and beat the tambourines. Play pleasant music on the harps and the lyres. Blow the trumpet for the festival when the moon is new and when the moon is full. This is the law in Israel, an order from the power of Jacob. He gave it to the people of Israel when he attacked the land of Egypt." So you'll read this and you'll say, well, see, it says when the moon is full, that's the sign of the feast. Well, it says when the moon is new as well, and when the moon is full. What high holy day do we celebrate when the moon is full? The Passover. Okay? Which is the 14th to 15th day of the month. Okay? Let's go to, see if I can type it in here, Leviticus 12th chapter. See what comes up. And I'm just using another website. If not, I'll just go to the book list. Leviticus 12. Yep, okay, Leviticus 12. I'm sorry, I said Leviticus 12. Exodus 12. Exodus 12. So let's go to Exodus 12. Exodus 12 and 1, the Passover. So let's get to when you celebrate this day. So this is Exodus chapter 12. And I'll start here at 15, the Festival of Unleavened Bread. The Festival of Unleavened Bread is also the Passover. The Passover is the one night. That one night that our people came out of Egypt, that is the Passover, that evening. That is the first day of the feast, the week-long feast of unleavened bread. So I'm going to read it. It says, "The Lord Yahweh said, for 7 days you must not eat any bread made with yeast. Eat only unleavened bread. On the first day you are to get rid of all the yeast in your houses. For if anyone during those 7 days eats bread made with yeast, he shall no longer be considered one of my people. On the first day and again on the seventh day, you are to meet for worship. No work is to be done on those days, but you may prepare food." So the first day, which that day would be the Passover, which is also known as the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And then when you count 7 days later, you eat, which is a Sabbath. Once again, remember, now I'm going to read it. You're starting this day off, this feast off, on the 14th day into the 15th day, which is at evening time. When the sun goes down, that's the start of a new day. The day is over, then the day starts again, from darkness to light. Remember that, from darkness to light is a full circle, okay? It's a full cycle. And the Most High repeatedly shows you that, even with the moon and, of course, with the creation. All right? It went from darkness. Then the angel said, let there be light, under the orders of the Most High Yahweh. Okay? Verse 17, keep this festival, because it was on this day that I brought your tribes out of Egypt. For all time to come, you must celebrate this day as a festival. So we keep the Passover in the springtime, the first month of the year, on the 14th day of the month. It says, verse 18, from the evening of the 14th day of the first month to the evening of the 21st day, you must not eat any bread made with yeast. For 7 days no yeast must be found in your houses. For if anyone, native born or foreign, meaning if you have an Israelite in the tribe of Gad, and he is born in the tribe of Gad's land of inheritance, or let's say he travels to Judah, in the Judah lands of inheritance, then he would be a foreigner. This isn't talking about anybody can come and celebrate the Passover. They believe in God and Jesus. No. It's talking about Israelites of the respective tribes. For if anyone, native born or foreign, eats bread made with yeast, he shall no longer be considered one of my people. So we're still within context talking about the Lord's people. So foreign doesn't always mean of another nation. Foreign can be of another Israelite, of another tribe. Okay, of the Lord's people, his people, my people. Okay? So I want everyone to understand that the 14th day of the month is when the Passover is celebrated. That would correspond in the moon cycle to a full moon. Okay? That is halfway through the month. Okay? That is halfway through the month. Now, let's go back to what I was reading. Sirach 43 and 6 again. He made the moon also to serve in her season, for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. From the moon is the sign of feasts, a light that decreases in her perfection. One feast that is based off of the moon is the Passover. Okay? Also the new moon. But now, let's see, I was also reading, let me go back. Psalms, was it in here? Okay, yeah, Psalms 81. Right, Psalms 81 and 3, blow the trumpet for the festival, when the moon is new and when the moon is full. That would be the Passover, right? And also the new moon. Okay? The new moon and the full moon are two different cycles of the moon, two different phases of the moon. Okay? So now, let's go into another translation. Well, first, before I get that, let me read verse 8. All right, Sirach or Ecclesiasticus 43 and 8. The month is called after her name, increasing, wonderfully in her changing. Okay, what is increasing within the moon? The light. So when the moon or the month is established, it is a dark moon first, a new moon, and then it increases to its light. It increases its light over time, which will eventually culminate into a bright full moon. Okay? And then, going back to verse 7, it decreases in its perfection Meaning what? Meaning it is completing a perfect cycle, phase cycle of the moon for that month. Okay? Israel united in Christ is totally wrong when they try to give you the understanding of the moon and the new moon. Okay? Esau didn't mess with everything. Okay? One thing that Esau can't change is how the moon and the sun shine in the heavens. They can't disturb that. They can tell you lies about how long it's been here and where it's from and volcanoes on the moon, and they can lie about stuff like that because you can't readily go up there and find out the truth on it, except for if you go according to the Bible and you know that Esau is a bunch of liars. All right? But one thing they can't change is they can't change how the sun and the moon interact in the heavens with the earth. That is a divine order. Okay? Verse 8, again, the month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, going from a dark moon to a full moon, from a full moon to a dark moon. Being an instrument of the armies above. The armies are the angels. All right? Esau would tell you that they lost the technology to go to the moon like they did in 1969. So they definitely are not, they would have to contend with the armies of the moon in order to change how the moon interacts with the earth. No satellite, no laser. There's no instrument that Esau can create that will disturb the ordinance of the moon or the sun. All they can do is just tell you a bunch of damn stories and lies. Okay? They can tell you lies about it. They can't do anything about it. They can't change it. They will meet angels when they go up towards the moon. And then it says, shining in the firmament of heaven. So that's a divine light from Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Okay? So now, let's go to the Latin Vulgate and let's read, okay, this is Ecclesiastes chapter 43 in the Latin. And let's read what it says about the moon in the scripture. All right, starting at verse 6. Now on the right, it says, et luna in omnibus, in tempore suo ostensio, temporis ex signum aevi. Verse 7, a luna signum die festi, luminare quod minutur in consumation. Okay? Verse 8, this is the point. This is in the Latin. Mensis secundum, nomen Isus est crescens, admirabiliter in consummation. So what does this mean? Read it to the left. Verse 7 again. From the moon is the sign of the festival day, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. Verse 8. The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her perfection. Right? So the main verse that I want to focus on, and here in the verse, is verse 8 and in the Latin. Now the word for increasing in the Latin is crescens. Okay, crescens. Now what does crescens mean in the phases of the moon? We have the crescent moon. Okay? So now let's look this up. Let's look up the meaning of crescens. Okay? Crescens. Okay? Now you have someone named Crescens, but what we want is the actual meaning of the word. All right? And they're going into the name. I don't want, okay, what is the meaning of the word crescens? Share. The meaning of crescens is to get bigger, to develop, sprout. To get bigger, develop, sprout. So crescents corresponds to the crescent moon, in which the new moon, which is a dark moon, gets bigger. It gets bigger and bigger. All right. Now let's go from here. Right. Crescents. Crescent moon meaning. Here we go. The crescent moon. See, at GMS Great Millstone, you're going to get a deep understanding of the scriptures, not no surface, elementary level understanding of the scriptures like the IUIC teaches. And that's just the truth. You have to come up on a level. You can't be a surface level Israelite. All right? This is the deep understanding of the knowledge of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. They like to get on GMS about how deep we go into the law, we go into the Hebrew, we go into these prophecies. Meanwhile, all these other groups are rapping and singing and dancing and doing line dances and commercials. We don't do none of that. No gimmicks. We give you the knowledge, okay, of the scriptures. And we teach. We do videos on a daily. We go out on the streets weekly, multiple times a week. I was out at the camp last night. Okay? Brothers are at the camp on the weekends. Brothers are doing videos, sometimes multiple videos a day. Individual brothers. All right? We are about our Father's business. And with being about our Father's business, being diligent, we get a heavy increase of understanding this Bible to give to the hopeful elect out there. You have to get deep with certain parts of the scripture. Sometimes things aren't that deep. They mean what they say, you know. But when you start getting into the spiritual and the scientific aspect of the scriptures, you have to get deep. You can't just open the English KJV Bible and think you're going to get the understanding. Sometimes you got to go into the Hebrew. Sometimes you got to go into the Greek and the Latin. And just like here, I went into the Latin so I can get a deeper understanding of what it means when it says that the moon increases, but then it's perfection, right? And it took me back to the Latin word crescens, which corresponds with the crescent moon, right? It says new beginnings, the crescent moon's waxing and waning, meaning it increases, it waxes. When something is waxing, it's getting greater and greater. And waning means it's diminishing, smaller and smaller. It says it represents the time before and after something new begins. It can also represent life's journey from darkness to light, right? And fertility and all of that. That's not what I want. So we got that. Now I don't really want, let's see here. So let me do this, because if I type in meaning, it's going to give me spiritual and philosophical understanding. I just want to understand the crescent moon. Here we go. A crescent moon. A crescent moon is a moon that appears less than half full with a thin curved shape that's thicker in the middle and tapers to the points at each end. The moon's phase changes gradually over a lunar month as the moon's position in its orbit around Earth shifts. When the moon is in a crescent phase, the side of the moon that's visible to Earth is a sliver created by light reflecting off the side of the moon. The word crescent. The word crescent comes from the Latin word crescere, which means to grow, right, or crescens. Originally, crescent was used to describe the waxing moon, or the phase that immediately follows the new moon. Today, crescent is often used to describe either a waxing or waning moon. Okay? So this is a crescent moon. So that means that the moon, let's see, what happens during a crescent moon? I ain't talking about the sun. The moon is not reflected by the sun. Okay. So let's get that. Let's get that reflecting the sun out of your head. The moon does not reflect the sun. The moon is its own light. Okay? So you can see here. So it goes from a dark moon, and then it starts to shine again. And after a couple of days, you're going to see a sliver or crescent moon. Okay? What is the meaning of crescent moon? Okay. What defines a crescent moon? Botanical Dictionary, crescent singular. The shape of the visible part of the moon when it is less than half full. Right. So let's go to this that I had pulled up. And I mentioned this in a video I did a few years ago, but I didn't go specifically into everything I wanted to go into. So I'm going to do it here. So you have the phases of the moon. Okay? The phases of the moon. We're going to use science, true science, coupled with the scriptures. Okay? There are things that Esau lies about. There are things that he tells the truth on. Phases of the moon. So you have a new moon, right? As you can see, it's dark here when you look on the left. Let me, that's how Google always puts. Okay, let me see if I can. No, I don't want to search. Let me just see if I can pull this page up. Here we go. I just want the image. I like the image. So here we go. Phases of the moon. Phases of the moon. The new moon. Okay, as you can see here, in a waxing crescent. So it starts off, right, as a dark moon. And then it waxes, or it crescents, increases its light. All right. And then you get a first quarter. All right. And then it waxes some more to a full moon. This takes from a new moon to a full moon is 2 weeks, or what? 14 days. 14 days, which is when we have the Passover. Okay? So you get a waxing crescent, first quarter, right? That's 1 week. From new moon to first quarter is 1 week. From first quarter to full moon is 2 weeks. And if you don't believe me, do this yourself. Do this yourself. There's a new moon coming in Saturday night and evening and Sunday. You will not be able to see the moon. Okay? The moon will be a dark moon. That doesn't mean it's gone. The moon didn't disappear. The moon is just not shining any light. Okay? It will be a dark moon. That's a new moon. Going from darkness to light. Just as the Heavenly Father had the angels create the universe, the heavens and the earth, from dark, then there was light. That's the phases of the moon. So then from a full moon to the last quarter, it wanes, it decreases, and then you get the waning crescent. And right, so full moon to the last quarter or the third quarter, that is 3 weeks. And then from full moon through the waning crescent, and then another new moon, that's 4 weeks. That is decreaseth in its perfection. So now let's go back to the scriptures. Okay? Back here. Ecclesiasticus 43 and 7. From the moon is the sign of the festival day, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. Okay? When does the moon light start to decrease? It decreases after the full moon. What feast day do we have on a month and at the 14th day? The Passover. I just read it in Exodus the 12th chapter. And the 14th day of evening. Okay? This is how you go over the scriptures and get an understanding. Okay? And then from a full moon to the next new moon, right, all the way through to the waning crescent, what does it say? Ecclesiasticus, Sirach 43 and 7, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. It says the month is called after her name. So when you get a new month, the light starts to increase wonderfully in her perfection. So what happens when you get a new moon, a new month? It increases, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, to the full moon. So it increases when you get a new month. The new month comes in, it's a dark moon, a new moon. It increases in its perfection, full moon, then Passover, right, which would be on the 14th day, then waning crescent. Okay? Waning crescent, which is going into the last 2 weeks. Full moon to last quarter is the 3rd week. Last quarter to new moon is the 4th week. Okay? Remember, there's 4 weeks. All right? There are 8 main phases of the moon. The new moon. The moon is entirely in its shadow, and its surface appears dark because the angels didn't increase the light. It's virtually invisible to the naked eye. To the naked eye, you can't see it. Waxing crescent, a thin silver crescent. Remember, crescents, right? Or crescere, which means to increase, to grow. Silver crescent begins to appear on the right side of the moon. It's the first visible phase as the moon starts to grow larger. First quarter, half of the moon is illuminated, forming a clear right-hand semicircle. This is the halfway point between the new moon and the full moon. Okay? The halfway point between the new moon and the full moon, that's what? 1 week. Waxing gibbous. More than half of the moon is illuminated, but it's not yet full. The illuminated part continues to grow, continues to increase, covering the right side of the moon's surface. Full moon. The entire face of the moon is illuminated, forming a bright, full circle. It's the only time when the moon appears as a complete disk in the sky. This is how you know that you are halfway through a month, when you see the full moon. Waning gibbous. The moon starts to shrink, starts to decrease, and the illumination decreases on the right side. More than half is still visible, but is visibly smaller than the full moon. Last quarter. Half of the moon is illuminated, forming a clear left-hand semicircle. It's the mirror image of the first quarter. That's the third week. Now we're going to get into the last week of the month. Waning crescent. The moon continues to shrink, leaving a thin silver crescent on the left side. It's the last visible phase before returning to the new moon. The new moon returns to complete a full moon cycle. The entire moon cycle unfolds over approximately 29.5 days, a period commonly referred to as a lunar month. And that's the understanding. That's the understanding. Okay? So now what week are we on in this moon shot here? Right? So you see that so the right side is crescent and it's illuminated. Okay? Its right side is illuminated, is forming a crescent. The other left side is getting dark. Let's see what it says. Last quarter. That's half of the moon, forming a clear left-hand semicircle. It's the mirror image of the first quarter. So let's see. Is this the last quarter of the moon? Nope. Let's go up. Let's see what it says. Waxing crescent. A thin silver crescent begins to appear on the right side of the moon. It's the first visible phase as the moon starts to grow larger. First quarter. Half of the moon is illuminated, forming a clear right-hand semicircle. This is the halfway point between the new moon and the full moon. So the right-hand side is being illuminated. So that means that this is an increasing moon. So it's in its waxing phase. Okay? All right? But it's not yet a full moon. Then it'll be a full moon. Okay? So this moon in this image here is in its waxing phase. And this is going into something else. We just want to get the phases and how you calculate the phases and what they mean when you go into the scriptures. And clearly, what does it say? Because when you go into the Latin here, it talks about the crescents, going to the crescent moon cycle. Okay? Now, all right, so now let me do this here. Let's go back to, let's see, weeks. Moon, I mean, let's see, because there's a weeks. What does the wind? No, not spiritually. Phases of the moon. Okay, lunar phase. Let's see if we can pull up if it mentions how the weeks are calculated. Okay. Because a week means to change. But I just want to get if it's going to mention how you calculate the weeks, because all this is saying the same thing. Okay, here we go. Yep. Animation showing progression of the moon's phases. So you clearly see it goes from dark, right, dark side. So now you see the light on the right side increasing. Just like we read in the scriptures, just like we read in the phases that we saw in the image on the other website. On the right-hand side is illuminated. Okay, that means that we're going into the increase of a new month. Okay, so you go from a dark moon, increasing right-hand side, to a full moon. Then it decreases, left-hand side is illuminated. So it's going back to a new moon. Okay? But I want to get the weeks. This ain't telling me calculate. Let me just get weeks, meaning. A week is a meaning of 7 days. But I want to get what it means. Let me see. Week. I may have to get the excuse me, I may have to get the etymology. And I think I did this before. Okay, so here we go. The word week. The word week comes from the Old English words wiku or woku. It's related to the Proto-Germanic word which means to turn, succession, change, week. To bend, wind, turn. So it means to turn or to change. Okay? Where does the term week come from? 7 nights. Yeah, that's right. A week is a full 7 nights, 7 days. Here we go. Etymology of week by Etym Online. Week. All right. Comes from wuku, wiko, which we just read. Probably originally with the sense of a turning or a succession. Right? So it means to turn. Meaning primarily change, alteration. The word may once have denoted some earlier time division, such as the change of moon, half month. Okay? So half a month was determined by the change of the moon. And then it goes into other historic. And we know that other nations and kingdoms had different, weekdays that they named and, on different cycles. But the word itself, change of moon, half month, okay? And then it goes, there's no evidence because you got different cultures to say different things. But it means to change, right? And when they went back far enough, it goes back to the changing of a moon, okay? All right? The change of the moon is a week, half a month, which corresponds with what? Corresponds with the moon phases. The increasing into a full moon from a new moon, which is, I just proved it, a dark moon. Then it decreases from a full moon to a new moon again. A full moon decreasing over time, over weeks, through the moon phases, back to a dark moon. Okay? Let me see, a month. A month. 1/12 part of a year. One of the 12 parts into which the calendar year is arbitrarily divided. Month. It goes back into Old English, Dutch, German, which was related to Menon, moon. See, moon. Originally, the month was the interval between one new moon and the next. One new moon and the next. Okay? moon, month. Did not the scripture say that the month was determined by the moon? Okay. Matter of fact, the word month goes back to the word moon. Okay. So that's pretty much it. Because you have to go into sometimes the Latin, the etymology words will take you to other languages. As you see here, you go into the Greek. Sometimes we go into the Hebrew, and then you go into some science. Is everything that Esau pushes out in his science, is everything wrong? No. So IU says, IUIC, which they teach that the full moon is a new moon. No. Science itself doesn't tell you that. Neither do the scriptures. Okay? All right? The month, when you get a new month, it increases. Okay? It increases. All right? Increasing wonderfully in her changing. Back again, Ecclesiastes 43:8. So it increases. So it goes from a dark moon, then it shows light into a full moon. Okay? And then one of the feasts during the full moon, pursuant to Psalm 81, is what? When the moon is full, you got the Passover. When the moon is new and when the moon is full. Okay? So in a dark moon, you blow up the trumpet. And then when the full moon and you get the festival or the feast day time of the Passover, all right, do the same thing. And then, of course, over time and different times of the year and different months, we have different high holy days. But we're just getting the basic understanding of what the moon means and how it is a sign of feast. Okay? So, you got to pull out some of these words of these scriptures. I pulled out moon. I pulled out increasing. I went into the Latin. Increasing is the word crescents. What crescent goes back to the crescent moons and the different phases of the moon. All right. What does month mean? What does weeks mean? Okay. Then I got visual images. Then I did a game of it. It showed an image. We had to figure out, according to the image here, what was the phase of the moon that it was in based off of this image. You know what I'm saying? That's how you teach your people. This is how we teach. Okay? This is how we get down through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak Dash. All right? So with that, I'm going to end it here. All praises, all glory, all honors goes to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak Dash. As always, double honors to the apostles, bishops, elders of Great Millstone that rule and teach well. Shalom again to the 144,000, the rest of the whole for elect. I pray this is edifying. Shalom.